My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 501. Good morning. It is May 16th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Fog this morning. Clouds this afternoon, the high going to be 71. And then the weekend looks like this. Saturday, you'll have fog in the morning, sunshine in the afternoon, warmer than it has been, the high going to be 83. And then Sunday, mostly cloudy, high 74. If you're walking out the door with us right now, 61 and cloudy in Islip out on Long Island. It's 62 and cloudy in Pennington over in New Jersey. And it's 62 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
No, they did it. New Jersey transit engineers walked off the job. More bad news for Newark Airport. Cops want to cuff the pepper spray crew. Why are there so many needles on the streets in the Bronx? And a Long Island teacher saves one of his students' lives. All right, let's get into it at 5:02. New Jersey Transit train engineers did what they promised they would do. They walked off the job at midnight in a dispute over wages, halting all train service, impacting some 350,000 commuters. Governor Murphy holding a press conference around midnight last night when he was told that this was going to take place, that the engineers were going to really walk off the job.
The workers and families who rely on our transit system every single day are the backbone of our entire economy.
Picket lines began at 4 a.m. this morning at New Jersey Transit headquarters at Penn Station, New York, and in Atlantic City. And here is one of the heads of the transit union, of the engineers union, talking about the fact that they just couldn't come up with a deal.
The more time goes by, the more of a challenge it is, as you know, obviously with inflation and things like that. But again, like I said, we'll be talking, and hopefully we can get all of this worked out.
And what was interesting to hear New Jersey Transit President Chris Colori, who came out last night, and he explained in detail why he could not make this deal, because really what it comes down to is essentially, if I give this much money to the engineers, then guess what? Every other union across the board is going to ask for cash.
There is no point in providing a compensation structure to a group of my colleagues which ultimately ends up bankrupting the agency. And you may ask, why is that? They're such a small group of people. How could they possibly bankrupt an agency? And this is how, and I've said this over and over again. Unlike any other transaction, a union negotiation is inherently about, if one union gets a better deal than the other, the one that did not get a better deal is automatically entitled to that compensation.
Right. I think that makes an excellent point. People are asking me, why not just give them the money they want? But if you do that, then everybody else has their hand out there like, what about me? How about me? Do I get a raise? So now, of course, the big story of this day is 350,000 people on average who ride New Jersey Transit trains to get to work, to get other parts of New Jersey, are out of a ride this morning.
Yeah, it's going to affect us a lot because we don't got no way to get back and forth to New York, and that's where I work at. That's where I get my bread and butter. So it's going to put everybody at ease. I have to catch the path and find a way in, but it's going to be real difficult.
So what's New Jersey Transit's plan? Well, the plan for today is they're like, you're kind of screwed. Stay home, because they're going to set up these places where you can do park and rides, but those are not ready to go. So today they say, if you don't have to come to work and they let you work from home, then do so. But there's a ton of people, of course, who have to be in the office. And some mayors of towns where there's lots of transit systems, they say New Jersey Transit has done an awful job of telling them what their plan is. Like Hoboken, of course, is a big place. The New Jersey Transit trains normally roll in there. People get on the PATH train and go into the city. Well, now, of course, there's no train service. Does that mean people are going to drive into Hoboken? Hoboken mayor really mad at New Jersey Transit for not saying, hey, what's the deal if the strike happens?
Fortunately, New Jersey Transit has not given us any meaningful plan of how they're going to proactively address traffic and other transportation challenges.
Yeah, so here it is. I'm sort of shocked that they actually walked off, but they did. So let's find out from our own Joel Nolan what, if there's any way, or normal way or easy way to get around this. No. Good morning, Joe. What's the scoop?
No, there isn't. There's no easy way today to get around. There's not going to be any easy way to get around it at all if this goes through the weekend and into Monday, Tuesday next week. But today, I would expect that today, and again, historically, with all these strikes that we have had, there's been a long, long time since we had a transit strike around here. But as I remember, those early days, the first couple of days were not all that terrible. It really started to ramp up once you got into day 2 and day 3 and day 4 of strikes, because, just about everybody can take a day off, and just about every business is, going to allow you to do that up to a point. And then they're going to make people come in. Now, again, all of that was before people worked from home. All of this was pre-pandemic. So who knows what's going to happen? I imagine today's not going to be that big of a deal on the roads. At least that's my prediction. We'll see what happens. But you can still get on the path. You can still get on ferries. Amtrak is not impacted by this. If you're heading to D.C. or up to Boston today, you won't have any issues with that. Private bus carriers are not cross-honoring. That's important. Also, New Jersey Transit buses, they will cross-honor, but if you're going to get on an Academy bus, they're not taking the tickets from New Jersey Transit. Hold on. This is going to be an interesting few days. I'm Joe Nolan with Traffic Talk Radio 77 WABC.
Yeah, you're right, Joe. It sure is. Mayor Adams says the city's monitoring the situation for any impacts that will be. There will be some shuttles in place to help mitigate the crowds, but of course now Penn Station goes quiet. For how long? At least for New Jersey Transit riders, it goes quiet. Last night was the first big test of this strike, right? New Jersey Transit had told people going to the Shakira concert that they were not going to have a ride home because the strike likely was going to happen at midnight, which it did. And so you could get there, but you wouldn't be able to get home. So they offered up buses. And I will say in this case, apparently when you talk to, the people at the concert, they said they did a good job figuring this out. Now, we didn't talk to concert goers on the way home, which is always the tough part of getting it out of MetLife Stadium, is getting home. Getting in always seems to be easy. Getting out's always another story. But here were people at the Shakira concert who figured out a way. New Jersey Transit offered buses from the Port Authority. They gave people a lot of notice to know about it.
To see Shakira with my girls.
We're all here for her birthday.
The crowd. I took coach bus, so it was working fine. That would have been a catastrophe.
That's why we came early. Because we were scared it was going to be a madhouse.
Now, again, I did not talk to those concert goers once the show was over last night. The big sticking point, of course, wages, working conditions. The union claims its members earn an average salary of $113,000 a year. And the CEO of New Jersey Transit said it actually works out to more than $135,000. They want $170,000, so they're pretty far apart. That is riders, again, trying to figure out what they're going to do this morning.
I think they'll resolve it quickly because I don't think this region could function without NJ Transit.
I don't remember a transit strike in my lifetime. I heard the last one was 1983. I was a year old, so I'm surprised it has come to this point, and I hope that they can resolve it. I mean, I think everybody wants New Jersey Transit to be paid what they should be paid.
All right, so the park and rides, they're not going to start till next week. Let's hope they have this resolved over the weekend. And as you heard from Joe, your best bet is if you are able to work from home, for sure your boss will know about what's going on. That is your best bet. Of course, keep it here all day long, right here, 77 WABC for the latest on the strike. We reached out, by the way, overnight to the union to ask if there are talks on the agenda today, and they said there were not. But that, of course, could change as time goes on. You'll see some of those striking workers outside Madison Square Garden, where Penn Station is this morning, and in Newark as well. 5:10. That's not the only transportation mess. The FAA, airlines that operate out of Newark Airport, looking for ways to reduce flight delays and the cancellations that have happened every day ever since that first outage of radar that goes back more than 2 weeks. Correspondent Tom Costello at Newark Airport.
With one of Newark's runways under construction until mid-June, today a second day of meetings between the FAA and airlines to voluntarily cut flights into Newark. Already, United has cut nearly 36 daily flights.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy telling a House panel yesterday that Newark is a top priority for him. But to fix all that's wrong, it's not like it's weeks or months. It's going to be more likely years.
Severe weather forced a ground stop, then a ground delay. Arriving flights delayed 5 hours at one point. It comes as the FAA is moving fast to upgrade Newark's unstable telecom lines after several radar and radio outages in recent weeks.
Now, United Airlines has canceled about 35 flights a day because they just say we don't have the capacity to get them out, because now they're only letting a certain amount of flights fly in and out every hour because of the problem with not having enough air traffic controllers. And so United Airlines chief commercial officer says he's been meeting with officials from other airlines to discuss the cutbacks at Newark, so everybody gets to hit a little bit.
We are going to work to figure out how, with the government as a mediator, how to get the aircraft heading towards the runway consistent with the capabilities of the runway.
And then you had this moment with Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy maintaining that Newark Airport is safe despite those 3 radar outages over the last 3 weeks. But he switched his wife's flight from the struggling airport. Duffy defended the move when he was asked about it before a House panel yesterday. They said, what gives? You're telling us Newark's safe, but then you move your wife's flight to another airport.
With all the delays at Newark, my wife had to do an event, and she was in the city of New York, and so I did. I moved her from Newark to LaGuardia, not for safety, but because I needed her flight to fly. She had to get there.
And he claims that previous comments were taken out of context, claiming someone clipped audio of him to make it seem like he was talking about safety.
Now, if someone had clipped some audio of that and made it seem like I was talking about safety, I fly out of Newark all the time.
All right. By the way, if that's not bad enough, if you're one of those people who've gotten stuck coming in or out of Newark Airport, this will just add to the misery. New Jersey Department of Health warning travelers about a potential measles exposure after someone with a case of the illness traveled through Newark Airport. The infected person was not a New Jersey resident, but they traveled through Newark's Terminal B. This was on Monday between 12:30 and 4 p.m. That's what the health department is telling us. According to health officials, potentially infected people could develop symptoms as late as June 2nd. Now, what do you do about this? In the meantime, there's not much you can do, but they're just letting you know as you were sitting there in that hard plastic chair waiting for your flight to take off, or maybe it never did, you were exposed potentially to measles in Terminal B on Monday, May 12th. Isn't that lovely? 5:14. Down to Washington, D.C. Supreme Court now set to rule on a case that could limit the power of federal judges. It's all related to an executive order from President Trump that aims to end birthright citizenship, an argument conservative Justice Brett Kavanaugh seems to think is fraught with a lot of problems.
What do hospitals do with a newborn? What do states do?
Federal officials do not accept documents that have the wrong designation of citizenship.
How are they going to know that?
The case brought before the High Court isn't directly about the constitutionality of the order, but the scope of with which lower courts can issue nationwide injunctions. Trump's order to end birthright citizenship, generally accepted as law under the Constitution's 14th Amendment, has drawn immediate lawsuits. 3 lower courts have issued injunctions. So now it's up to the Supreme Court to decide if the lower courts really have that kind of authority. Liberal Justice Elena Kagan telling the Solicitor General that the Trump administration has lost nearly every legal challenge brought by the legal or those lower courts.
The tools that are provided to address hypotheticals like this, again,
This is not a hypothetical. This is happening out there, right? Every court has ruled against you.
You're violating precedent. Not only precedent, but the plain meaning of the 14th of the Constitution.
5:15. President Trump having high praise for the United Arab Emirates and their relationship with the U.S. He met with the president of the UAE during his trip to the Middle East yesterday.
I have absolutely no doubt that the relationship will only get bigger and better. Your relationship and mine can't get better, so I can't say it's going to get better because it's at the highest level it can be. But our countries will work together.
The president toured a famous mosque before having dinner at the presidential palace. He arrived after visiting Saudi Arabia and Qatar, where he announced business deals and agreements potentially worth $1 trillion. The president touting his first months back in office while meeting with the president of UAE.
We've become a very hot country. We were not such a hot country 6 months ago. And now I think we're the hottest country, if you want to know the truth. You're an amazing country. You're a rich country. You can have your choice. But I know you'll never leave my side. I know that. And you know the special relationship that we have and our country has.
In a moment, we'll head over to Turkey to see what happened between Ukraine and Russia there. They were supposed to have peace talks. We'll get to that in just a moment. First 5:16, a first check of sports on this early Friday morning. Good morning, Justin Allen.
That's quite the love story going on over there, no?
Yeah.
She's never leave my side. All right. Well.
Was it President Bush who held hands with the...
yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a notch below that, maybe.
Yeah.
But, there's no physical sort of engagement going on. But, hey,
I like the holding of hands.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it, Noam Laden. All right, let's get to sports here. Everybody is looking ahead to tonight at the Garden. Last night out in Denver, though, the Nuggets, they beat the Thunder 119-107 in the West semifinals and get Game 6 there. That series is now knotted at 3 games apiece. But tonight at 8 p.m., back at the Garden, the Knicks welcome in the Boston Celtics for Game 6 of their Eastern Conference semifinal series. Of course, the Knicks leading the series 3-2. They got walloped in Game 5. So looking to bounce back tonight and put away the Celtics for good and head into the Eastern Conference final where the Indiana Pacers await. And the Knicks tonight, 2.5-point favorites. And also looking ahead to the MLB tonight, 7:05 p.m. first pitch at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. The Mets visiting the Yankees for the first time this year, obviously. Tyler McGill will go for the Mets. Carlos Rodon will go for the Yankees. Aaron Judge leads the Yanks with a .412 batting average. Got 12 doubles, 2 triples, 15 home runs, 27 walks, and 41 RBI. He is far and away the best hitter in Major League Baseball. Cody Bellinger is 13 for 42 with 2 home runs and 5 RBI over the last 10 games. Francisco Lindor leads the Mets with 9 home runs while slugging .491. Brett Beatty is 6 for 19 with 4 home runs and 7 RBI over his past 10 games. And everybody's looking ahead to the arrival of Juan Soto back in the Bronx. He's got no illusions about the kind of reception he will receive for his much-anticipated return tonight. Quote, "It's going to be 50,000 against 1. Soto told the New York Post. They're going to try to get on me. It's part of it. Whatever they do, they have a right to do it. Well, you're damn right. We have a right to do it. My God, he is going to get absolutely peppered with booze all weekend long in the Bronx. But Noam Laden, I'm here for that as well. That is your sports, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Hey, business owners, make your cash secure again with Secure Cash LLC. Transporting your business's cash safely in armored trucks. SecureCashLLC.com.
5:21 now. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arriving in Turkey for peace talks yesterday, but there was no engagement with the Russian delegation for him anyway, as Vladimir Putin decided to skip out on this meeting. The two were set to meet to talk about, of course, the long-going war between the two countries. Correspondent Keir Simons reports things are not going especially well for Zelensky as he meets with Turkey's president.
Secretary of State Rubio is here somewhere else in Turkey meeting with NATO foreign ministers, and the Russians are here, but a delegation that is nothing like the face-to-face summit between leaders that have been talked about.
Now, earlier in the day yesterday, President Trump told reporters that nothing's going to happen until Putin and he gets together. Putin previously suggested Moscow would be open to these direct negotiations with Ukraine to discuss the 3-year war, but then later announced that a lower-level delegation would make the trip. Now, that lower-level delegation did make the trip.
Right now, Ukrainians and the Russians, frankly, throwing abuse at each other from a distance, not yet meeting face-to-face.
Now, there is one report that they did meet face-to-face, but we couldn't get any confirmation of that. Some place yesterday, lower-level delegation, not including Zelensky and, of course, Putin, who did not travel to Turkey, but they did meet. So maybe we'll get more information on that, of course, as the morning wears on. Let's bring it back home to the U.S. Former FBI Director James Comey receiving criticism for a social media post some say calls for the assassination of President Trump.
The post included a photo of seashells on a beach arranged to form the numbers 8647. The post faced criticism from Trump administration officials, with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying Comey was calling for the assassination of President Trump. The number 86 is occasionally used as a slang term for getting rid of someone or something, while 47 was interpreted as a reference to Donald Trump's status as the 47th president. In a post on X, Noem said DHS and the Secret Service are investigating the threat. Comey has since taken the post down. I'm Mark Mayfield.
WABC News Time 523. Down to Florida. Now the second state in the nation to ban fluoride in public water. Governor DeSantis signing the legislation that's known as the Florida Farm Bill. Signed it yesterday afternoon.
But they say, well, it's good for your teeth, so we should just force it. And you shouldn't have a choice in that?
The state surgeon general says that studies show fluoride is related to lower IQs in children. But dentists, other supporters say fluoride reduces tooth decay in children and at safe levels is okay.
Yes, use fluoride for your teeth, that's fine, but forcing it into the water supply is basically forced medication. Fluoride is a good example because what they're basically saying is they're ignoring any studies that have shown that there could be issues if you're overexposed to this.
So the other state, Florida, other state that has banned fluoride in the water is Utah. 524, let's head over to Texas, where there are troubling new details on the arrest of a Texas middle schooler accused of threatening a mass shooting. San Antonio cops say they're investigating whether the 13-year-old and his mother may be linked to white supremacist groups.
There were Nazi swastikas and things like that that were found in the home.
Yeah, both are under arrest on terrorism charges. The school district says the student was caught researching mass shootings on a school-issued computer. He sounds like a genius. Sent to an alternative school, but he was later returned to this other school, and apparently they found, again, his home full of swastikas, other stunned like
I don't know how closely he was linked to white supremacy groups. We don't know if he was armed when he showed up at the school in tactical gear and a mask. He may well have been.
Yeah, the good news is he did not cause any harm. Now they're dealing with him. 525. U.S. military going to start screening soldiers for gender dysphoria in their annual physicals.
A new Defense Department memo is ordering senior officials to immediately commence the identification of affected service members during their health assessment. The Pentagon said Thursday the new screening is part of an effort to remove transgender service members from the military. In January, President Trump revoked an order from the Biden administration that allowed transgender Americans to serve in the armed forces. The administration has not said how gender dysphoria makes someone unfit for service. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
525. Congressional Democrats say that President Trump's tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced last week, are a de facto baby tax. And they say so because an estimated 90% of child care products are made in Asia.
The damage is done. Shipments are stuck, exports aren't moving, and working families are paying the price.
Congressman Jimmy Gomez of Los Angeles there heads the House Dads Caucus. Who knew there was even such a thing? The CEO of Walmart, adding fuel to the fire, said in an earnings call this week that President Trump's tariffs are too high, announced the big box store will start raising prices on some items, including toys.
The cost of car seats up. The cost of baby wipes up. The cost of diapers up. These are essentials. These are what you need. You can't get by without a car seat or diapers or baby wipes.
Doctors using gene editing to fix a baby's rare and life-threatening genetic condition for the first time.
Doctors at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia and the University of Pennsylvania treated the child, who was born with a liver mutation that increased his risk of brain damage and death. With gene editing, they were able to at least partially reverse his condition and hopefully give him a new lease on life. The case was described Thursday in the New England Journal of Medicine. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
This group of jerks, they call themselves the pepper spray crew, and they target taxi drivers. Police say these teenagers, there's 4 of them. They've arrested 1. They haven't found the 3 others. They'll hire a taxi a taxi driver, a livery driver, to show up at some location. They get into the car, they get to the final location, and then they pepper spray the driver on the way out in a bid to mug him. And there's at least a dozen versions of this already, probably more from, I imagine there's other drivers out there who have not reported this to police. Video in one case shows this guy, Juan Grulin. He's, the guy's just a cab driver trying to get through the day. And he gets sprayed by these jerks. This was on the East Side.
It was very difficult to breathe, and my eyes was brown, my eyes was burning, and my nose and everything.
Yeah, and he says he's still really recovering from it. Video shows them trying to rifle through his pockets after they pepper spray him to grab any items they can.
I was very, very scary. And then they tried to reach my wallet, my pocket and everything.
Okay, so the good news is the cops have got 1 of them, but they haven't gotten the other 3, and they're worried they're going to hit again. Fernando Mateo, he heads the New York Federation of Taxi Drivers.
This is a 4-borough assault on our drivers. If you go out and you pepper spray a judge or you pepper spray a DA and you rob them, is the treatment going to be the same? That's what we're asking here. Are drivers being treated differently than other people?
Now, we've seen incidents like this before where these guys are cut free in a very short time. Don't know if that'll be the case here, but they're looking for 3 individuals that they call the pepper spray crew. Ruby Chen says he can feel close to his son Itai. He sat before the United Nations Security Council yesterday, just heartbroken, asking Hamas again to release his son's body so he can be mourned. Unlike the family of Idan Alexander, the last living American hostage who came home on Monday, they're waiting in agony for Hamas just to release their son's remains. So he went through the United Security Council and made a speech there yesterday. His son is believed to have been killed on October 7th, 2023.
I am the father of Itai Chen. Itai is an American, German, Israeli citizen held in Gaza by Hamas for 587 days. If you look at the kid, he's a fun-loving kid.
Chen demanded the UN enforce this resolution in the international law that officially recognizes the rights of families to know the fate of their loved ones missing in conflict. Now, Israel has told the Chen family they're pretty positive, 100% so, that he was killed on October 7th and that Hamas dragged his body across the border. But Chen says there should be sanctions on Hamas for disobeying these international rules.
There's like a process of how to cope with this. But in our case, there is no process. So we are like in a suspended alternative universe where we just need to figure out, what to do.
Now, of course, the problem is that Hamas has been playing by its own rules, so likely not. They won't follow whatever the UN tells them to do. I did not know this story. Sometimes stuff surprises even me. The Department of Sanitation has a dedicated team that cleans up needles left on sidewalks and streets across the city from people who are shooting up. Did you know that? I had no idea. So according to the Department of Sanitation, crews picked up 100,000 needles so far in 2025. 65,000 of them have been in the Bronx. And News 12 actually followed along one of these crews as they were picking up needles in the Bronx yesterday.
It's a vital part of city cleanup. I mean, we all have families. We all have children, ourselves, the residents of New York City. No one deserves to have to walk down the street and see these needles laying around and be exposed to this.
Yes, so they do have these trained officers who do these needle cleanups. They often find them on the curb line by cars. And the DSNY, of course, in disposing needles needles, they should be done properly. But if, people are shooting them up and throwing them on the ground, I think that's what's happening.
A lot on the curb line and by the cars. That's where we find them typically. But we're here, we're cleaning up the streets, trying to keep it, safe and healthy.
Yeah, but who knew there was a specific crew that does this? By the way, if you see a needle on the ground, you shouldn't touch it. I think that might be obvious, but also call 311 so they can send one of these crews up there to collect it. New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer introducing legislation to help those struggling with mental health. His bill would create a national grant program that would provide up to $8,000 a year to students studying to become school psychologists in an effort to address what's just a huge shortage in that profession.
Support our children's mental health to ensure they can receive the resources they need to learn and thrive, to ensure every student has dedicated professionals ready to help them.
Yeah, another bill he's introducing to help schools fund the cost of suicide prevention software that can track potentially dangerous messages and searches that take place online. The Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center in Montclair marking what would have been the Yankee legend's 100th birthday.
Hall of Fame broadcaster Bob Costas hosting the event at the museum's location at Montclair University in Little Falls. Berra, a baseball Hall of Famer, was a longtime New Jersey resident, famous for his 18 seasons with the Yankees and for his interesting quotes.
I don't even know I say them myself. I really don't. The best one, I think, too, is that when you come to the fork of the road, take it. They just come out. I don't know I say them.
Berra also spent time managing the Mets. For 77 WABC News, I'm James Flippin.
We'll in Long Island with this great story. Tyler White was taking a test at Cordello Avenue Elementary School in Central Islip when he asked if he could go get a drink of water from his water bottle, but apparently I guess he didn't realize the cap was still on. He squeezed the bottle. The cap came lodged in his throat and he began to choke.
I was state testing and I was drinking water, and I didn't realize the cap was on it, and I squeezed too hard, and it went down my throat.
His teacher ran out into the hallway for help, and thank God she found school safety officer Jason Schaefer, who ran in. Schaefer tried to pat his back at first. That didn't work. Then he gave him the Heimlich, and thankfully that bottle cap came out.
The teacher came out screaming that a student needed a nurse. He was choking. So I ran out. I ran into the classroom. I radioed for the nurse to come, and then I gave him the Heimlich really quick, like 2 good shots of it, and bottle cap came up.
Really relieved. I was really relieved.
Yeah, everybody's doing okay. Good job done by Jason Schaefer, the school safety officer at Cordello Avenue Elementary.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?